Hey everyone, I want to take a minute and talk about something that's been coming up a lot in my conversations with Shopify merchants lately, and that's all about fulfillment. And if you're doing over $1 million in revenue, I know that's a lot of people that are listening here today that are at that kind of level, and you're still packing boxes yourself, or maybe you're wrestling with a warehouse partner that's kind of holding you back, you're probably leaving money on the table. And I see this all the time. Brands hit their kind of first scaling wall because fulfillment starts to become this almost massive bottleneck and eats up a lot of time and a lot of energy. That's why I'm excited to have ShipBob as a sponsor of today's episode. They've got over 60 fulfillment centers across the US and Canada. I believe they're in the UK and the EU, Australia. They're all over in all the hot spots where likely your customers are, which means customers actually get their orders faster while you save on shipping costs. Here's what I really love. Many brands, like one particular, like Bloom Nutrition, for example, doing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue and literally only have a team of 2 people that are handling operations. And all of that is because ShipBob is taking care of everything from the post-purchase experience. And with all the recent kind of tariff changes that we've been talking about, they've got this foreign trade zone warehouses that you can actually help you defer these duties until you actually ship the product. So that's a huge cash flow benefit. And so if you're ready to, I'd say, get your time back and maybe scale without the operational headaches, then you should head over to shipbob.com. You can mention e-commerce Fastlane. They'll give you like a free analysis. They're going to show you exactly how much you could save while delivering your products faster. So trust me, it's worth the conversation. Head on over to shipbob.com. And now, let's get on to today's episode.
You're listening to E-commerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company, powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder, and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, welcome back to E-commerce Fastlane. I am your host, Steve. Now, today I think we're going to explore, I'm going to call it a critical shift that's kind of happening about how maybe Shopify brands can build kind of deeper and more profitable relationships with their customers. It's one of the things that I think is massively important. Like, it's beyond maybe just, I'd call it the crowded and costly worlds of ads. And we know the ad costs are going to continue to increase as we roll into Q4 now with this holiday season and Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Today, I have an amazing guest, actually, and I'm a huge fan of their platform. The gentleman's name is Moshe Zippel, and he's the senior lead of advertising success for a company called Beehive, and it's Beehiiv. And if you haven't tried Beehive yet, it's quickly becoming one of the largest newsletter platforms of choice, really for growth-minded brands, to be quite honest with you. Building an owned audience, I think, is massively important outside of your regular email platform you're using. If you're using Omnisend or Klaviyo or MailChimp or whatever you're using that connects to Shopify, that's a little bit more of a transactional nature. It's quite a bit different when you think about like a newsletter. And one thing's nice about Beehive, it really makes it very easy to, and I have firsthand experience because I'm a Beehive customer for my media company, but you can launch beautiful branded newsletters. And I know that it integrates with Shopify and, through some of their embeds and stuff. So you can automate a lot of this subscriber growth. And there's a lot of interesting features that are built into it. We're going to learn a lot about that today. I'm hoping to maybe chat a bit about just newsletters in general, about why they're so essential for a direct-to-consumer brand. And I'm hoping to kind of walk through some of the growth and monetization tools that are also available kind of from within the platform. Once again, owning an audience and having an opportunity to kind of build these raving fans and having direct access to content that customers are looking for. So, hi, Moshe. Welcome to E-commerce Fastlane.
Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Oh, my pleasure. So let's talk a little bit about the Shopify merchants who might be unfamiliar. They've heard of a newsletter platform, but they may be unfamiliar with what Beehive is or the brand and their brand ethos. Can you talk a bit about what it is specifically, and then how it kind of differentiates itself from like other newsletter or maybe even other email marketing platforms?
Sure. So Beehive is a one-stop shop for anyone to kind of come and build out their own custom email newsletters as well as websites. Built out the website product a few months ago, and it's seeing tremendous success. But essentially, it provides that opportunity to any content creator from the smallest size sending out their newsletter to maybe their friends and family, to large publications that we work with as well. We work with Time Magazine, Boston Globe, a few others as well that are really kind of in the millions of subscribers. Mm-hmm. And it's a one-stop shop tool for them to create their content, engage with their readers, offer premium kind of subscriptions as well, and different other monetization tools that they could use to create the content and monetize and kind of make a business from it. One of those core offerings is the ad network, and that's kind of the core product that I sit on as far as my responsibilities at Beehive. But that is another monetization tool that we provide to anyone and everyone, who are interested of monetizing the content that they're creating on Beehive by working with hundreds of advertisers across our network to pair up and find matches between publications and advertisers so that like-minded companies are kind of meeting in the middle and being able to find the right matches for them to advertise and create monetization opportunities within their space.
Yeah. I've even found too, there's even on top of the ad network itself, I think there's another opportunity inside Beehive that allows for other similar, or I would say maybe even adjacent, but I don't know what the right word is, but other newsletters out there that we feel that the same audience would see value in. And a lot of times there's opportunity of, hey, you show my newsletter, I'll show yours, or hey, we're willing to pay $1 or $2 for every kind of valid new subscriber. Can you talk a little bit about that kind of opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely. Great call outs. So that what you refer to is our recommendations product and our boost product. So the recommendation one is that kind of organic free service where any publisher or content creator can opt in and essentially say, I'm willing to recommend up to 4 other newsletters so that as soon as someone signs up for my content, they'll be prompted and say, hey, thank you for subscribing. I actually suggest that you refer out and subscribe to these other newsletters as well. So it's really just kind of bridging that trust that the user has already opted into with the initial content creator that they're signing up for, and then them lending their voice to say, hey, I really like these other 4 newsletters. You should really check them out too. And this way, publications are able to reciprocate and add each other into their top 4 as far as the recommendations. That is the free offering, and that really drives a lot of growth for publications on our network, for new publishers to get new subscribers and really grow their network organically. The other offering is our Boost network, which is a paid offering, which works very similarly. But essentially, you put out an offer into the network and say, I'm willing to pay $1, $1.50, whatever the cost point is that you're comfortable with, for new subscribers. And then other publications will receive that offering, and they can then say to choose to run that or not, and include that anywhere within the content of their newsletter or anywhere within the journey and cycle that their users go through. So whether it's someone signing up to their newsletter for the first time, similar to the recommendations, they can get a prompt that says, sign up here for these other newsletters as recommended to them by that publication, or even at the bottom of their post. So whenever they're creating their content at the very bottom or wherever they choose to put it, they could say, I really like and highly recommend these other publications as well. Go ahead and give them a shot. And every newsletter subscriber that you drive, you are then paid out at that kind of CPA offer that was prompted. So just a nice other way to not only grow your audience organically, but also get paid for it, and another way to monetize.
And it's interesting, when I've just logged into my own Beehive account right now, and I went to the Grow tab and then went under the recommendations. And it's interesting in there that I've quite a few subscribers have been referred to me from others to my newsletter. And it's interesting, and there's even some of my top 4 recommendations are listed here. And I'm like, these are really high quality referral links that I definitely could and very much should refer customers to. And Customers Who Click is a well-respected SaaS tool out there. and even e-commerce alchemy, another newsletter out there kind of in our space. I think there's lots of great voices out there and stories need to be told. I don't have a monopoly on the Shopify world by any stretch, but at the end of the day, there seems to be, clearly whatever the recommendation engine is that's working in the background here, it clearly is working, and I can see subscribers increasing and some recommendations are fantastic here.
That's awesome to hear.
Yeah. So I want to talk a bit about the Shopify stores in general, because I think why do you believe that a store should prioritize maybe building a newsletter strategy along with other marketing strategies? Because if we talked that, hey, we agree that having an email service provider, let's say the Klaviyo or an Omnisend of the world, and that connects to Shopify, and that's part of the promotional, thanks for visiting, abandoned cart recoveries. There's lots of kind of outbound kind of marketing strategies that go along with an ESP. It's pretty standard. Even Shopify has its own Shopify inbox feature too. But why do you believe that having a newsletter in tandem with other marketing strategies makes sense?
Sure. I think customers, as you might think about your own day-to-day in terms of different types of messaging that you interact with or are bombarded with, for lack of a better term.
That's a better word.
Yeah, we're all privy to kind of the Facebook ads, the Instagram ads, the YouTube ads, the TV ads, and the world of advertising when it comes to getting your product and your messaging in front of consumers is very, very much overdone, I would say, at this point. And I think a core part of every successful, whether it's an e-commerce brand or just a general marketer and advertiser, is trying to create other ways to stand out in the marketplace and offer value to your users and your consumers in a way that they would appreciate. And I think thought leadership and content creation is very much an avenue and a medium, but is being leveraged a lot more these days. You're already seeing this with a lot of kind of brands out there that create their own blog posts or thought leadership posts, 7 reasons why our product might kind of change your life, right? And that's still selling and that's still an advertisement, but it stands out in a way that is different than a kind of a standard buy now, shop now, 20% off, just promotional ad. And I think you and I were discussing this a little bit before, but the opportunity to create that blog content, but then not necessarily have users get to that content on their own organically has always been a challenge for brands and for advertisers.
Yeah.
And then they kind of begin to build a reliance on third-party mediums where they're going to social and they're sharing their posts on social media. But that kind of creates that reliance now where Facebook is the one who's driving the audience to you. Or you create paid ads on that post to now drive people to your organic website, which again is a cost factor now for you. And also is a reliance factor where you're kind of hoping and praying that these third parties stick around and drive you the correct audience. Versus email, where if you're building out your own email list and you're sending out your newsletter or even your website post, right, which lives there in posterity, if you're to send that out to people who have engaged and signed up and provided their contact information to you already, and now you're providing them with messaging and content that is of value to them, that is not only, number one, free in a sense, but is also a more welcome offering, both for the user as well as for yourself, as now you own that audience. You're able to control what type of messaging they're seeing, how they're receiving it, and also use that for other purposes without building that reliance on third parties.
Yeah, no, 100%. I totally with you on that. Now, as far as connecting Shopify to Beehive, I understand there are some interesting kind of, I guess, integrations that are available. Obviously one would be the more simplified kind of embedded kind of sign up forms. There would be a little bit of code, like a JavaScript of some sort that could be embedded into the Shopify theme. It could be in the right sidebar. And I'm sure there's other ways to, and I think there's even magic links. There are quite a few things. What's your thought process on connecting, or at least allowing the Shopify store to have some sort of a way of collecting and getting people to sign up to the newsletter?
Yeah, I mean, we're all for it. We definitely enjoy the kind of the open source method and way of thinking. I don't actually know if there are too many native integrations built into Shopify today with Beehive as far as those options and those forms. That being said, building out these integrations is definitely a priority of our team as we continue to build out kind of run-of-the-mill integrations with other platforms. We have one with StockTwits. We have one with Discord that's coming out soon. So building one with Shopify is definitely one that would work and make sense for us. I do know we have an integration with Google Tag Manager right now as far as advertising goes. So if you're running on the Beehive ad network, being able to place pixels through Shopify, through your Google Tag Manager implementation definitely makes things a whole lot simpler there. And that is pretty straight out of the box. But I think that's it right now as far as the built-in integrations that we have.
Yeah, and I remember reading an article too. There was, I think, someone in your content team, Nicola, she wrote something recently about, I guess, they're talking about Beehive, the ultimate partner for Shopify brands. That's interesting because one of the areas that she talked about these integrations. She said, Beehive provides the ability for users to sync their Shopify and Beehive accounts together to kind of automate some subscriber collection. So it's interesting. So it sounds like this is like a moving target kind of work in progress. She's talking magic links or embedded sign-up forms or even transactional emails. And there's some A/B testing and some segmentation stuff that's apparently available. So I should probably locate a couple current live Shopify stores that are Beehive customers because I think people would love to see live implementation saying, hey, here's how they're doing it and here's what great looks like for them using Beehive. Yes, they still have an ESP and they're doing their thing, but they're clearly, even with some middleware, there can be some kind of internal syncs going on between signing up for the newsletter and still being tagged in Klaviyo as a prospect and so I think there's some interesting kind of technical workarounds that are available, but just straight line embeds and stuff like that in Shopify sounds like it's definitely a go.
Interesting. Yeah. Honestly, not an area that I'm super familiar with.
Yeah.
On my side of the business, but it seems like it's all very feasible.
Yeah. So what about, once again, this may or may not be in your wheelhouse, but this kind of attribution and kind of performance tracking, what's available inside Beehive just to know how well week to week, month to month that there's newsletter growth and open rate and click-through rate. There's a certain kind of KPIs that maybe some people I'm familiar with because I use the platform, but somebody that's new in running a newsletter, are there certain KPIs that are important? And then how do you track those and where kind of inside Beehive?
Yeah, great question. So as a publication, some of the standard kind of out-of-the-box metrics that we provide are your open rate. So how many users are you sending the email to versus how many are opening them? And that's something that we track actively on an ongoing basis. We're also able to then see how many clicks were driven on that email, both to content clicks, as well if you're using any type of advertisement using the ad network, we can differentiate those clicks out. And we report those as two different metrics. We report a total click count as well as a unique click count. So how many unique users are actually clicking and maybe just clicking multiple times or multiple places. If you're utilizing our ad network, we actually apply a third level of verification on that, where we're ensuring that our advertiser users are only paying for not only unique clicks, but unique verified clicks. So those are verified users, non-bots, kind of just going through multiple verification processes that we have, both internally as well as one that we work with a third party on to layer on that verification process, just because we want to ensure that the metrics that we're not only reporting on, but charging on are to the utmost gold standard that is available. So from an open and click rate, that's kind of the standard data that's usually made available to publications and what they're looking to see. Subscribe rates and all of that fun stuff is available for them as well once they're looking to grow their network and build out kind of their magic link settings, their paid settings and referrals, where is the most traffic coming in from. We have that all available for them to split out on all different types of customizations, UTM parameters, etc. And then going back to the advertiser side, on the ad network, one of the core initiatives that I kind of started building out as soon as I got to Beehive back in January is the Beehive Pixel, which is something that is still in its early stages, but gives us now the added insight to help track data and optimize against it for our advertisers, so that when an advertiser is working with us and running their ads in maybe even hundreds of different publications at one time, we're obviously able to report to them on the opens and clicks that occur on their ads, because that's all happens within the email environment, which we own. But once a user gets to the advertiser's website, let's say like a Shopify site, historically, that is where we would lose kind of insight and get into a little bit of a dark zone, since we would not necessarily be able to see which users are then going ahead and taking actions on the Shopify site. But by creating a pixel, which is fairly standard practice in the advertising world nowadays, everyone has, creating our own version of a pixel, we're now able to get that insight to track the events that occur, what the users are doing along their journey once they go from the email and actually land on the brand site. And then, like you said, going into the world of attribution now, tracking those conversions that occur all within attribution windows that are set by the advertiser and report back against them in multiple different kind of various reporting methods.
Yeah, and I see in the admin, so under analyze, there's like a subscribers report, post report, and there's a clicks report. It's interesting on the post report because, like, for example, what I'm looking at is, let's say, the past 30 days, and you can actually see delivered and all the basics that you talked about. Fully delivered emails that were outbound, how many were opened, unique clicks, verified clicks. There's a small disparity between the unique clicks and verified, which I understand. People have unsubscribed and potentially any spam that marks that have happened. But it's nice because then you have some really good visuals too about, where do you fit as far as open rate. There's a nice little like a speed up, like a speedometer kind of a dial, the click-through rate and verified. So it's nice to visually see kind of where you fit, and you kind of want to stay more to the left than to the right, which you obviously want less unsubscribe rate, you want a lower spam rate and things like that. It's really neat how you do it. And then I like how you break down everything as far as like the top posts and why. And then so there can be some analysis kind of like week to week, month to month, and saying like, why do we believe this did well? Oh, this title was great. This was very SEO friendly. It was a click-worthy title, and there was some FOMO built into it or whatever it was. And now they're actually, because that's the whole goal of a newsletter is, number one, an open rate. Nothing worse. I mean, my open rate, let's say it's like 30% or something. And so, in this particular example, 80,000 outbound emails, maybe, unless like 30,000 opened. And you're like, okay, well, what happened to all the other 60,000 or 40,000 others? Okay, then that's the thought process about, well, what else, what kind of content is resonant? Do we have are there outlier kind of like weekly or monthly posts that did really well? And if they did well, how can we replicate some of that success? Because clearly, as you grow your newsletter, there's certain topics and maybe some psychology built into titles and open rates and things like that. I think you can kind of start massaging the idea about, well, how do I get the largest possible open rate? And then once they've opened it in Gmail, how do they get people to click through on the content that's inside that newsletter?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So it's a moving target, but it's interesting and nice that all the details are kind of from within this dash. So I love it. Are there any case studies that you can think of? I don't want to put you on the spot here, but there's a lot on the website. I kind of went through them this morning, and you can search for them all, like just at beehive.com/case studies. But there's a lot in here. Is there anyone that you could think of that might be resonant with, a brand, like a direct to consumer brand that says, hey, we decided to move our newsletter over, or even if you're talking more anecdotally, like what sort of things are you seeing in the market right now where they're selling to an end consumer, like a physical product, they've decided to run a newsletter now, and then because of that, here's kind of like, the levers they're pulling to all the things we talked about already about building a brand and owned audience and reducing the advertising costs. Is there any one in particular or anything anecdotally you can talk about?
I'm trying to think off the cuff here,
because there's a lot in here. there's a lot of case studies in here I'm looking at now.
Yeah, a lot of case studies, a lot of good content. I'm trying to think of any ones that are specifically e-commerce brands that are also sending out their newsletters with us.
I do see, just as a side note, like, for example, there's a lot of SaaS companies that connect to Shopify that have newsletters. Like, for example, Black Crow, I'm looking here how they have a newsletter right now. And I've had Black Crow on my show, and they connect to Shopify and they help with advertising. And so they're trying to build their thought leadership around their technology solution that connects to Shopify. And clearly it's working for them.
Yeah, so I mean, Black Crow, the case studies that we did with them was them as an advertiser on our network.
Ah, very right. Cool.
So again, that is more the product that I focus on.
Right.
So that is the way, just to give high-level insight into that, but we have thousands and thousands of publications running across Beehive of all different categories, of all different types. Like I said earlier, we have small content creators, we have big news companies, we have SaaS companies, we have kind of the whole gamut, people writing content on all different categories. And people want to be able to monetize from that. So the standard old school way of thinking was you go to the market, you have a sales team, and you sell your entire monthly sends. And you say, I will let any brand advertise in here for $10,000 flat or $50,000, right? Depending on the size of what you're able to get. Right. That becomes more and more challenging and really only steers towards those who have the resources to be able to go to market with a sales team and do that. So what we created at Beehive about 2 years ago is a built-in ad network which is not necessarily programmatic advertising just yet, but it's an opportunity for publications to opt in to the ability to monetize and run ads, similar to exactly what you're doing, right? You create content, you're writing about e-commerce, you're writing about Shopify tips and all the different valuable information that you have, and now you want to make money from that. And then you go to advertisers and say, hey, we have really engaged audiences in the e-commerce space, in the finance space, in the crypto space. And we basically have all of this available inventory that is open for advertising in, if you so choose. And a company like a Black Crow or whoever it might be, all the multitudes of advertisers that we work with will then come to us and say, okay, I here are my goals. Here's the KPI of what it is I'm looking to achieve. I want to advertise and reach my kind of ICP and my ideal customer.
Customer profile,
Customer profile. Can you help me reach that audience? And then we'll go to our vast network now and say, okay, Black Crow, you might be a great fit for Fastlane Insider as a newsletter. You might be great for e-commerce alchemy. And we basically do that at scale, reaching hundreds of publications at a time for each advertiser so that they don't need to go one by one and create those direct partnerships. And we can kind of be that middleman that's driving success for both sides.
It's interesting too, though, because like, you think about it, like they're saying, like in this particular newsletter for Black Crow, they say they slashed their CPO down by like 50%. So these are like, these cost per opportunity. So someone, so at least maybe has some kind of interest and likely booked a demo. That is that's a pretty, a pretty amazing stat. And there's a lot of people that are listening right now that maybe aren't direct to consumer founders and marketers. There's a lot of people in the SaaS world that connect to Shopify that want to learn about, well, what are other SaaS vendors doing? What's the upcoming trends and things of maybe some of the unicorn players, and what are they building, and can I build something more niche? So there are lots of, there's over 15,000 Shopify apps in the Shopify App Store, and probably even more agency partners out there. So I think it sounds like there is a huge opportunity. Clearly Black Crow has seen some value in it. Another company I see here is talking about in the SaaS world is Stack Influence. I've had them on the show a few times. I've done a review post on them. It's nice to see that they have their own dedicated newsletter, and they also have some opportunities that they are trying to explore. But how do we get people to know more about our micro influencer marketing platform that once again connects to Shopify? They're trying to build their own audience around their expertise in helping creators and these direct to consumer brands find creators. But here it is. They have this newsletter, build their thought leadership, but they also have the opportunity to kind of advertise and get out and get more people to subscribe to their newsletters. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why more and more of these software companies and even e-commerce companies directly are coming to advertise with us is that anyone can advertise on Facebook, or anyone can go to YouTube or Hulu or whatever it is. And you're essentially showing your content ideally to the right customer, but it's at kind of a random point in their journey. So you might be watching YouTube and watching a travel show and then get hit with an ad for an e-commerce software that's relevant to you as a user, but you might kind of put it out of your mind just because it's not kind of what your mind is thinking about right now, the content you're involved in, and you're like, hey, let me just watch my show in peace. Reason people are picking up on newsletter advertising is there's a lot of creators out there, yourself included, who are putting out really valuable pieces of content about a category, about a specific topic, and being able to show up there where it matters and be part of that conversation. And essentially paying on a cost per click basis so that the advertiser now only has to pay for each click that is driven to them. But that is a really valuable advertising opportunity that's not available in a lot of locations. And that's why I was saying earlier, a lot more advertisers are picking up on this, and we're getting a lot of great traction with our ad network.
Yeah, this is amazing. So, like, looking ahead, we here we are rolling into Q4 now. I hate to say it's September, but it's on a lot of people's mind about this holiday time, end of summer, kids back to school, and there's so many webinars and things going on in my world around Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Q4, holiday, share a wallet. There's lots of words being rotated around, and people are really trying to figure out where do you see the opportunity right now for a brand? Is now a good time to want to turn on Beehive and start creating a newsletter? I guess I think the short answer is yes, but just because of the massive amount of buyers that are going to be online, and knowing that you have a newsletter, you're giving yourself a better opportunity to get subscribers to continue having great momentum into 2026. But just want to kind of hear it from you if there's been some internal chatter about, is now a good time to start a newsletter? And if so, what do you believe some of the next steps could be?
Yeah, I think now is as good a time as any. Like you said, going into the most important time of the year for a lot of these brands, able to engage and drive consumers and drive interest from all avenues is super important. There's always going to be paid advertising available, but I think the more you're able to do to show up in formats where users are caring and to read your content, to engage with you in a different venue, that's not just a ad bombarded in front of your face. I think it's just more important to diversify and get those eyeballs kind of on your content as soon as possible. As far as next steps, I would highly encourage anyone to check out Beehive, to see what's available to them, see the tools that are at your disposal. There's a lot of great resources out there, but across our knowledge base, our dashboards, our blogs online, and I would say reach out.
Yeah. And reach out to me because I know the platform quite well. Pricing is really affordable too. There's there's the launch program, which is like $0 kind of no commitment, pretty straightforward. And I think they have a send limit of maybe up to 2,500 subscribers. And then you can jump, very affordably under 1,000 subs, for $50 a month. And you get like a full access to like all the tools, the ad network, the boost network. There's a referral option. There's a lot of stuff available. Surveys, exit surveys, all the stuff that you'd want for $50 a month to build your newsletter, and the price just slowly scales up as you start adding on more subs. I've just rolled over, we talked before we were recording here, but I just rolled over from the 25,000 mark into the next tier, but now I'm in a certain tier of 25 to 50,000 subs. But that's just all part of the journey of building your newsletter and building an owned audience. And I think you make it affordable for people to start. So that's kind of like my takeaway today is that if you don't have a newsletter, it costs you $0 to go to Beehive right now and create an account and at least get familiar with what the platform is. I've chosen it. I've looked at 3 or 4 others and I'm very happy with it. Clearly, lots of other Shopify brands have chosen to create their own newsletter also with Beehive, but you can start with $0 and you can scale up as you need more features and as you get more subscribers. It just seems to scale along. You kind of are a partner along and the rate just is very consistent as you increase your number of subscribers. So love it.
We always love to hear a happy customer.
Yeah. That's great. Well, once again, thanks, Moshe, for coming on the show today. I appreciate, Beehive. I appreciate, the Ad Networks program. I think it's another great opportunity for people to build their newsletter. I love the referral side of the business too. I think all of it together, you've created a really good system here. And I want to wish you continued success, at least on the ad side. And obviously there's I get all the emails and stuff from Beehive about the platform updates and all the things that are happening. So it's a pretty wild ride. It's great to have an owned audience. And just once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of E-commerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.